financial problems, elder law, tax problems, business matters, divorce, personal injury, bankruptcy, your life, your reality. Life is complicated. There is the law and there is reality. Welcome to Law and Reality, sponsored by Thav Gross. Now here's your host, Ken Gross.
Good morning. Welcome to Law and Reality. This segment of the show, we're going to cover my simple three-point plan to retirement. Mine and ours, I suppose. Good morning, Jenny Lingle.
Good morning, Ken.
Good morning, Brian Small.
Good morning.
David Einstein, how are you this morning?
Always a pleasure to see you. I'm excited to hear about this three-point plan.
All right, well, the beginning of the plan starts with looking at Social Security. And the first question that you throw out there is, will Social Security be adequate and how much will be there? Now, the political debates have brought out the issue of Social Security in a limited fashion because the candidates have not been speaking that much of it. If you were watching, the Republican candidates in the debates a while back did address it. Trump said he's not contemplating any changes to Social Security. Cruz said he wants to try and move them to investment accounts, extend the age for younger people, and make somewhat dramatic changes. Rubio was along with that too, but he's long gone. Clinton's position was she wanted to eliminate the reduction when a spouse dies for those who need the income, which, as you'll see shortly, is a pretty dramatic provision. Sanders wanted to increase the benefit by $65 a month, lift the cap on taxable income to ensure earners who are earning over $118,000 per year end up paying a greater proportion of the benefit as part of their taxable income. What I take back of those changes is they're really not doing that much to Social Security, but what you'll see is even if you do nothing to Social Security, when it comes to retirement, it's totally inadequate from the standpoint of reality. Now here's the reality. I tried to gather the numbers of what's the average, and I know Brian's looked at this, the average Social Security benefit, and also what are our expected average costs, holding all dollars constant today, assuming with inflation they increase to the time that we're ready to retire.
When it was created, was it intended to provide sufficient living, or was it just intended to be a supplement to whatever your other retirement vehicles were?
I don't know. But I know this. Back in those days, people were much more prone to have pensions who had worked, and the concept of a pension has become an antiquated concept. People have these limited 401ks that they manage themselves, and they manage to make sure there's no money in them by the time they go to retire. So I don't know what the premise was back when FDR put together Social Security, but I know right now we have to look at it from the standpoint of what dollars we have coming in today and what dollars we're going to be spending, and are we going to have an adequate retirement. So here's the benefit. The average benefit a worker receives is $1,298 a month. Now how that breaks down, this is Social Security retirement benefits. The retired worker receives $1,343 a month. The retired worker's spouse is averaging $692. On a monthly basis, that means if the husband and wife are both alive, they've got $2,035 on average coming in. When one of them passes away, you only get the benefit of the largest of the survivor, so that would be $1,343 a month. So that's what you have in the way of income in retirement if you don't have anything else. Now I went and said, what's our average costs? And I found a site, numbeo.com, that has average costs per locality, and I pulled the numbers for the metropolitan Detroit, and they're rough, but they tell a big story. And these are updated through March of 2016. Your average rent, depending on the size of the apartment and the location in the metropolitan Detroit area, is from a low of $665 to a high of $1,300. I took the average at $982. Utilities average $273. Cable averaged $51 a month. Those are the ones I got from the site, and now I gave you some other estimates that I just plugged in numbers. Cell phone, $75. Gas maintenance insurance, that's not a car payment, $350. Food and miscellaneous, $500. And if you have a car payment, I threw in the number $350. That comes to $25.81 a month.
Now, is
Jenny,
this
what
for
were you
the
going to say?
couple or is this for one person?
This was for a couple.
Okay.
But it was only one car
Okay.
on the premise. So you're not going to have that big of a difference in
Appears
cost.
to be a pretty slim budget here as well.
It is a slim budget. You know, but it's $25.81 a month. Now let's go back to our income. On the married couple, they've got $2,035 coming in. They're $546 short. And if you're the surviving spouse and you're down to $1,343 a month, granted, maybe the $500 of food is a little bit high for one person, but it wouldn't be high for me. You're $1,238 short. The point is this: there is no way in the world you can survive on Social Security alone. And now, Brian, what's your statistic you always throw in there? What's the average amount people have in savings?
Oh, well, the actual average, you know, I see people above age 65, they usually don't have more than $50,000 to $100,000 in the bank in their 401ks or IRAs at that point. And it's, when you take that and spread that out over their actual life expectancy plus emergencies and issues, it's probably 15 years worth of money.
Yeah, or $50 a month if you spread it out.
Yeah,
over a long period of time.
it's not a lot. It isn't going to make the difference here. You have to focus on putting real dollars away in your retirement as soon as humanly possible, which means you have to go to the core of what we talk about, which is eliminate your debt as soon as you humanly can.
Granted, I would agree with you that, and when we come back, I'm going to give you my 3-point plan to accomplish that. But the thing that, you always say people have less than $1,000 a month in savings when they're in their 40s and 50s. The message is, if you're out there and you're in that boat, you've got to think ahead of where you're going to be when you're 75. We'll be back.
Tax problems are major problems. Don't let the IRS levy your wages and seize your assets. There is a solution.
Worth Ave Gross, our firm will solve your problem.
If you're behind on your taxes and owe money to the IRS, call Fav Gross.
We've been solving tax problems for 32 years. We stop wage levies, resolve unfiled returns, and obtain the best possible settlements.
Call Fav Gross today, 888-235-HELP. It's devastating, the effects of debt and foreclosure on you and your family. There is a solution.
Worth Ave Gross, our firm will solve your problem. Some fear the word bankruptcy, but in reality, it's a strategy to save your home and to eliminate debt. If you're in financial trouble, timing is critical. You need to take action now. We've been saving homes and eliminating debt for over 33 years.
Call Fav Gross, 888-235-HELP.
A lifetime of hard work. If you don't have the right plan in place, you can lose your home, your savings, and more. And you didn't come this far to lose everything. Samasco Law wants you to know that laws are changing. Today, the average cost of nursing home care is $85,000 a year. With proper planning, we can help protect your life savings and get you the Medicaid and nursing home benefits you deserve.
How much can you afford to lose? Call Samasco Law today.
Carrying too much debt? Resolve your debt. Call Fav Gross.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call Fav Gross. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP. If you're retired and in a financial crisis, there is a way out.
It pains me when I see a retired couple exhaust their savings by paying credit card bills and for a home hopelessly underwater.
Fav Gross specializes in helping retired people in financial crisis.
You just can't keep paying until you're broke. You need to address the problem now.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem. All right, welcome back. All right, so let's look at the 3-point plan for retirement. Now, it may sound simple, but getting there sometimes isn't as easy. But number one, when you're ready to retire, you have to have zero debt. Number two, I think you need to own your own house. And the reason for that is so that you do not have the cost of rent. And number three, you have to have supplemental income to add to Social Security. If you can sit down in your 40s or 50s or even your early 60s, if you're thinking about retiring more like at 75 and 70, and commit to those 3 points, you have a method by which you'll have enough money to live comfortably.
You're always going to have some form of rent, whether it's repairs, maintenance, upkeep.
Yeah, you can have, and taxes on the property.
Taxes.
Well, and it's also interesting because a lot of older couples realize they have to move. You may have a 2-level house, snow plowing may be too much, the lawn, a lot of that requires a lot of maintenance. So I think a lot move to condos would have to look at the HOA fees and how high that they can increase over the time that they plan on living there.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you own your own house and you're getting to that point and you have no mortgage, you have the flexibility of saying, okay, I'm going to take that house and I'm going to sell it and move into a condo, but I'm not going to have a mortgage. Or I could even reverse mortgage that house,
which would
for
certainly allow you to
supplemental
give a
income.
supplemental income, and based on the value of your property, it could be a considerable amount of money at the time that you actually reach retirement age.
Right.
So,
But from the idea of a simplicity of a plan and a target and a goal to get to, is what I say is if you go with the concept of I'm going to make sure I've paid for that house when I'm at that stage, that gives me the flexibility to downsize, to move to a different house, to cash out the house and use the money for rent if I have to, or to reverse mortgage the house. The message that I want people to really grab onto is the need to have the house paid for, which means no refinancing every 5 years to pay off your credit cards. No, if you refinance to get a lower interest rate, that's fine as long as you're not pulling cash out of that house, because if you pull the cash out, you're going to get to 65, 70, and you're still going to have a mortgage payment. And if you have a mortgage payment, plus utilities, plus food, plus insurance, plus taxes, you're not going to have enough income.
Plus, on a refi, you don't want to extend the term. You don't want to go from 15 years left back to a 30 to decrease your payment.
Correct.
Additionally, one of the problems I see is now I get the client who's 65, they've just refinanced their house, and, well, it's not a problem. I'm still working. And that's great. I'm self-employed. I'm running my own business. I'm going to keep running my own business. It works out great right up until the point where you're physically unable to continue to work. And while that may not be in your mind at 65.
That can be at 68, and it could be at 72. It's eventually going to happen.
Right. By the time you hit 80, there's a strong likelihood that you're not going to be able to put in the same work effort, and the opportunity to continue that work that hard isn't going to be there, but you still got 15 more years on your mortgage.
I would agree with you on that statement for everyone except myself.
Yeah, well, good. Keep getting that hair painted.
Oh, now you're stealing David's lines. That's great. I think the ideal number that people have to focus on is if you want to live comfortably in retirement on current dollars, in addition to your Social Security, $3,000 is my magic number. That means if you can get to the point where you have your Social Security coming in, you have no debt, you have your house paid for, and you have $3,000 of supplemental income coming in, you're then in a position where there's a cushion. There's room for presents for the grandchildren. There's room for some vacations. There's room to have a retirement that is not just getting by, has a level of happiness to it. And I'm not talking about, Trumpville. I'm talking about living a life that's comfortable in retirement with some level of pleasure. But how do you get to the point of having that $3,000 of supplemental income available to you? And
now,
what I say is...
Are you saying that $3,000 is in addition to Social Security?
That should be your goal.
So you're talking about if you have $1,800 of Social Security, you're talking about $4,800 a month. If you have
And I'm
$1,200, you're talking about $4,200.
And I'm focusing for the most part on the couple. And the couple's got about $2,000 coming in. And keep in mind, go back to what we were talking about before. Hillary Clinton's proposal on revising Social Security, where she says take away that penalty when one spouse dies, that's a if you think about it, it's a very logical provision that really probably should be passed. It's going to cost a lot of money to the government.
Because a lot of the costs are fixed costs, regardless of whether there's one or two people. The rent, the repairs,
everything except
the maintenance.
food.
Right.
I mean, because most retired couples don't have two. I say most of them don't have two cars, so they don't need two cars.
They do until one of them can't drive anymore.
Yeah, and also if they're retired, they can travel together. So you don't have.
Of course,
that
if you're
need
like
of
my
two
parents,
people going to their jobs.
My mother drives like 2,000 miles in 3 years, so she really doesn't need a car. She
same
just
thing.
wants one.
Right. I mean, in that situation, so going back to what David's saying is the marginal cost difference is minimal. You instead of making 2 Medicare payments, you have 1 Medicare payment. You have 1 supplemental prescription coverage payment, and you have a little bit less in food costs. So when you think about it, that's a provision that would be nice to see it happen. Will we see it happen? Probably not, because we have the problem of the population's aging. Social Security is going to be tighter and tighter. We either have to have a complete different attitude to Social Security from the standpoint of raising the taxes that we pay in and payroll taxes to fund it, or we're going to see it being cut back, not being made greater. On that basis, we need to plan how are we going to find that supplemental $3,000 a month income. I say the first way, the easy way of doing it, right off the bat, is if you have credit card debt now in your 40s and 50s and 60s, and you're paying out $500-600 a month in credit card debt, that's the key to turning that into savings. We come back from the break, we're going to show you how.
Is the debt piling up? Struggling to get by?
It's all about preserving future income. Bankruptcy is one option. When it's right, it's the least costly, most effective way to save your home, eliminate a second mortgage, and wipe out credit card debt. But you need to address the problem now.
We help people with bankruptcy. Call the experts.
Worth Ave Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP. Tax problems are major problems. Don't let the IRS levy your wages and seize your assets. There is a solution.
Worth Ave Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
If you're behind on your taxes and owe money to the IRS, call Thav Gross.
We've been solving tax problems for 32 years. We stop wage levies, resolve unfiled returns, and obtain the best possible settlements.
Call Thav Gross today, 888-235-HELP.
A lifetime of hard work. If you're approaching retirement and don't have the right plan in place, you can lose your home, your investments, and your savings. And you didn't come this far to lose everything. Putting a solid strategy in place with Samasco Law legally protects your assets as well as your wishes. Since a will doesn't cover you medically or financially, Samasco Law goes beyond ordinary asset management protection to safeguard everything you have.
How much can you afford to lose? Call Samasco Law today.
If you're retired and in a financial crisis, there is a way out.
It pains me when I see a retired couple exhaust their savings by paying credit card bills and for a home hopelessly underwater.
Thav Gross specializes in helping retired people in financial crisis.
You just can't keep paying until you're broke. You need to address the problem now.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
Worth Ave Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
Carrying too much debt? Resolve your debt. Call Thav Gross.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call Thav Gross. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP. It's devastating. The effects of debt and foreclosure on you and your family. There is a solution.
Worth Ave Gross. Our firm will solve your problem. Some fear the word bankruptcy, but in reality, it's a strategy to save your home and to eliminate debt. If you're in financial trouble, timing is critical. You need to take action now.
We've been saving homes and eliminating debt for over 33 years.
Call Fav Gross 888-235-HELP.
All right, welcome back. Before we go to the method of creating that savings fund out of your credit card debt, let me do announcements. I want to remind our viewers to listen to us Tuesdays noon to 1, 6 to 7 p.m. on Law and Reality Live with Mildred Gaddis. That's on WCHB 1200 AM 99.9 FM. Saturdays from 9 to 10 a.m. we have Law and Reality, Your Reality. That's on WDFN 1130 a.m. We have 2 seminars coming up, important seminars. The first one is called Go Away, Mr. Debt Man. It's Wednesday, April 13th, 6:30 to 8 p.m. Focusing on how to preserve future income for you and your family. All the methods, including my simple 3-point retirement plan, will be discussed at this seminar. You get a free copy of my book, Dump Your Debt. It's 6:30 to 8 p.m. You sign up at thavgross.com or lawandreality.com, or you can call 888-235-HELP. We have another seminar coming up Wednesday, April 27th called Planning for Your Last 40 Years. It's a real optimistic seminar. I thought I'd come up with a name that would create optimism.
Your last 40?
Your last 40 instead of your first 40. So it's the seminar for someone who's 40 to 50, okay, or 60. It's how do you plan for those years. Pat Simasco, our elder law expert, is going to join us and talk about Medicaid, nursing home planning. I'm going to talk about estate planning. Brian's going to talk about debt issues for people as you get into that last 40 years. It's free, 6 o'clock to 7:30 p.m., Wednesday, April 27th. You sign up the same way, thavgross.com, lawandreality.com, or call 888-235-HELP. Go to our websites, lawandreality.com or thavgross.com. You can always request a free consultation. There's blocks there. You just click on the things, pop in your email address. It goes right to me, and then we get back to you and set up an appointment. We have 3 special free reports on the websites. Business Formations, Loans and Grant Programs in the City of Detroit is the newest. Pat Simasco's Retiree's Guide for Social Security. And I have a report on how to use Reg X, the hidden secrets to stop and avoid foreclosure on your home. All right, now, back to
Wait,
our
there's one more thing.
What did I miss?
You didn't miss anything. But for those of you that don't actually have a computer or don't want to use your computer and you still want to come in for an appointment, you can just call the office at 888-235-HELP.
What's that number again, Brian?
888-235-4357, for those of you trying to figure out on your keyboard what it is.
Okay, now back to our retiree situation, the simple guide. Here's where we left off before the break. I said if you're paying $500 a month on your credit cards, which, Brian, is that unusual?
It's not unusual for people in their 40s and 50s to be paying that much right now. No.
All right. If you put $500 a month away and you earn 7% interest on that money, and if you were able to do it for 30 years monthly, that would create a fund of $614,043. So if you were 40 and you put $500 a month away at 70, you'd have that amount. If you only had 20 years to accomplish the goal and you put away the same $500 a month at the same return, you'd have $262,482. If you were 60 and you had 10 years to get there, for 70, you'd still have $87,547. All 3 of those, first of all, it illustrates one thing that everyone talks about. If you can commit to a savings plan long-term over 25 years, you're virtually assured of having a sizable amount of money for retirement, as long as you're not gambling it away in the stock market or constantly tapping it out and borrowing it. But when you get down to 5 and 10 years, your opportunities go down. So you have to take action. Now, the question is, how do you create that? It's one thing, Brian, to say, I'm making $500 a month on my credit card payments, and what Ken is saying is instead put that money into savings. There's a little bit of a gap there of saying, what do you do about the credit card bills in order to start putting that money into savings? And that would be what your specialty is. How do you get to the point of eliminating the debt so you can then take the money and save it?
Well, let's start off with, it doesn't really matter whether or not you're going to be able to save money or you have reached retirement and this is all the money you've got coming in. It's how do you most effectively utilize your money for you. So how do you do it? You look at your situation and you have 3 viable opportunities to get yourself out of debt, to therefore allow you to utilize your money for the rest of your life and your family. 1, Chapter 7 bankruptcy. That's a debt elimination bankruptcy. You wipe out your debts, you get a fresh start. You walk away from the debts that you owe and keep most, if not all, of the assets that you own.
Right, so how do you qualify for that in real brief order? We only have a couple minutes, and I want you to
If
put
your
all 3
income,
out there.
generally, if your income minus your regular household expenses leaves you with a negative number or a break-even number or even a very small positive number, $50, $100 a month, you're going to qualify for a Chapter 7 bankruptcy.
Okay, and suppose you don't. Suppose you're making a little bit too much money to meet that threshold.
Well,
what's your next opportunity?
Then you've got to look at 2 choices. Should you do Chapter 13 bankruptcy or debt resolution? Chapter 13 bankruptcy is structured reorganization over time where you repay some or all of your creditors, some or all of the money you owe them over 3 to 5 years. What we do is we look at your income, we look at your expenses. After your household expenses, is there money left over? So let's say your minimum credit card bills are $800 a month, but you've only got $250 a month left over.
So there's a $550 difference.
Right. $250 doesn't pay $800, does it?
No.
But it
Not
does.
usually.
It does in Chapter 13. What it does is it says, I can take what you can afford and I can disperse it to your creditors and I can make sure that they accept it because they don't have a choice. I don't ask them, I shove it down their throat.
All right, let me go a next step. So suppose I'm making even a little bit too much money so that I would be paying back in that Chapter 13 all of the debt.
Well,
what's the next solution? Because we only have a minute. So
debt
you gotta tell us
resolution,
quickly.
negotiating and settling your credit card debt for pennies on the dollar. The average settlement being between 35 and 45 cents on the dollar. If you could afford to repay through Chapter 13 every debt that you have in full, you're better off settling your debts, being out of debt within 24 months, and moving forward with your life.
Yeah, usually we get those cases resolved in 14 to a max of 24 months, which is better than 60 months. The bottom line is the fastest way you can eliminate the debt, the quicker you can start taking the money that you've been paying to the banks, that $500 a month for interest, and instead putting it in so that you're earning interest for yourself and you're accumulating savings. In a later show, we're going to walk through all 3 of these elements in approximately 2 to 3 weeks and break it down. But for now, the message is save that money and think in terms long-term for retirement. Have a great week.